All right, 5 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. I want to brag about my son just for a second. Just give me a second. I want to brag about my son. My son just got back from, he went out to Colorado with his two brothers. They're not my son. So one of them is my son. The other is,
yeah.
What do you call half brothers, whatever you are. Okay.
Brother, yeah.
and they're, just so everybody knows, they're 31. He's 31. I don't know how old the other two are. Probably close to 30. Whatever.
Yeah,
They're a little bit younger than him. But anyway, so they walked this trail out in Colorado that was 26 miles long and like 3,000 feet tall or something like that. And so before they went out on the trip, I went over to bring him something, and on the counter, laid out on the counter, was each day's worth of nutrition, like very organized. I'm thinking, you did not get this from me. No way. When he went out to San Francisco, he ran the whole, like a 27-mile thing or something, or jogged it, whatever.
Yeah, marathon.
And he's in shape. I mean, his wife is a boxer. It's like, holy mackerel, you guys. I sit at a microphone. I look like a radio guy. So just now, I'm looking out the window and I see the UPS man, and then Robin goes out and brings the package in, and so I'm going to read this one, Robin. I hope I use it. The book is called Fitter, Faster: The Smart Way to Get in Shape in Just Minutes a Day. So that's the bait right there. Minutes a day appeals to a guy like me.
Yeah, for women too. It's
yes,
men.
I flipped through it and did see some photographs. So we have two guests on the phone, and I hope I got them both connected. Dr. Robert Davis is an award-winning health journalist, and Brad Kolowich Jr. is a certified personal trainer. And together, they're going to talk to us about the book called Fitter, Faster: The Smart Way to Get in Shape in Just Minutes a Day. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for being on the air with us today.
Good morning, Larry. Thanks for having us.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having us, Larry.
Okay. I think, are you guys hearing an echo? Because I might have to ride these controls so that echo goes away.
I think I did.
Okay. So, who's this? Who's on the phone?
This is Robert.
This is Robert. Okay. Well, Dr. Davis, thank you for being on the air with us. And Brad, I got you up now. Thank you for being on the air with us.
Thank you so much for having us, Larry.
Okay.
Excited to be here.
I just can't remember who's on which pod. Okay, so this is Brad. This is the okay. So how are you guys lifelong fitness guys, or did you start late in life, or have you always been this way? I guess I'll go to Brad first.
My parents, both of them. My father was a personal trainer for years and also a PE teacher, and so it's just been a large part of his life. And then my mother was an aerobics instructor for years and currently is a nurse. And so ever since I can ever remember, being at such a young age, fitness has just been a huge part of my life. So, I've really, it almost seems like I've never known no other. So, years ago, I decided to take on the personal training industry, and since then haven't looked back, and it's just been a true pleasure.
Okay, well, that sounds great. I think I'm the exact opposite. I'm going to go to the doctor now, Dr. Robert Davis. So there was a story, I want to tell both of you about this, an 80-year-old guy in China. Have you seen this guy, the hottest guy on the catwalk? He's 80 years old, and he got in shape like when he was 60. So he started late in life, clearly.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen that story, but I have to tell you, I have a different story from Brad's because I'm an example of somebody who was not into exercise early in life. I was a kid who hated gym class. I was a kid who hated to sweat. I was the kid who did anything I could to get out of any kind of physical activity. And so it wasn't until I got to college that I discovered that I really needed to do something. And so very gradually I started running and doing other things, but I did it over a very long period of time, and I realized as I got older it was something I actually enjoyed. But I think that, as I like to say, if I can exercise, anybody can exercise, because it's something that I certainly wasn't doing when I was a kid.
Okay, so I'm glad I got two different types on the phone, Robert.
Well, Brad's body has been recognized as one of the best bodies in Atlanta.
Really? Brad,
yes. You got a challenge now.
I have a challenge? Don't worry, Brad. You don't have to worry about me. I just want to know how to be better. I don't know if I want to be at your level. I probably never will be, but I just want to be could be 10% better than I am now. What should I do? What's your advice, Brad? I have to address each of you because of the stupid echo thing. Brad, what would your advice be?
I would say just baby steps. So starting small. So, we've created, I'll tell you, just for Fitter Faster, we've kind of simplified the approach. We've come up with a plan that, can be done in as little as 15 minutes a day. It's extremely comprehensive, so we've put together a strength, aerobic, plyometric, and stretching program. Tons of variety in our plan, so different days. So we've got everything from strength circuit, 2 days out of the week, a high-intensity interval training day. We put together a conventional cardio day, a high-intensity plyometric day, and, of course, a rest day. And it's really just kind of, wherever your ability level may be, whether you're beginner, intermediate, or advanced, it's determining where you are and, finding that starting position and then just progressively increasing from there. So my suggestion would be, even with our plan, you could jump in at wherever you feel comfortable, and then we'll show you how to progressively move through that plan. So, again, it's baby steps, starting with as little as 10 minutes a day, as you said, and then just progressively increasing the length of time. And, again, with the warm-up, the workout itself, and the cool down, it can be done in as little as 15 minutes a day.
Do you have a German Shepherd? I hear a German Shepherd. I hear a dog.
Do you hear a bark in the background? Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. No, I'm okay with the barking. I love dogs. But you know what? But you know what? I'm never going to do the hop over. I'm looking through the book. The book just arrived, by the way.
Yeah.
And you've got an exercise thing called the hop over. Let me go to the doctor for this one. All right, doctor. It's probably not a good idea that I do the hop over anytime soon, but could I get there eventually?
Well, it depends on your fitness level. It also depends on if you've got any other conditions such as arthritis. But I think the hop over is something, for example, we have for the advanced level. So as Brad said, we have it divided into beginner, intermediate, and advanced. And the beginner exercises are things that we think people that are not experienced at exercising would feel comfortable doing. And, of course, you can modify it. If it's something that you can't do, then you can change it. But I think that's the point. You want structure, but you also want a lot of choice so you can tailor it to your preferences and your abilities. And preferences, by the way, is important. You talked about your son hiking. If you like to hike, that could be part of the plan. Hiking's great, but if hiking's not your thing, if something else is your thing, if you prefer to go dancing or do yoga or go rowing, whatever it is, that's great. That's what you should do. So that we try to make it so that you can find something that works for you, because that's the key. Obviously, if you can't find something you're going to enjoy, keep doing, then you're not going to be successful at exercise.
Yeah, that makes sense. We were talking this morning about swimming as a way to exercise, and I was surprised to learn that if you're swimming, you better also be drinking water, because you can actually get dehydrated while exercising in the swimming pool.
Yes, that's one of the paradoxes of that, right? Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense, because you're not drinking the pool water, right?
Hopefully not.
And we hear people about taking medications and things, and what was disturbing to me was that people would actually take painkillers before they exercise.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's been a common practice among people who do marathons and triathlons and things to try to reduce the pain or prevent some of the pain. And we talk about this in the book, that actually not only is not effective, but it can be counterproductive. That taking ibuprofen, things like Advil, can actually have a negative effect on your ability to be successful at exercise, but also have some negative physical effects. So it's something that is not a good idea.
Brad, tell me about the cherries. Will you eat bowls of cherries?
Oh, I love cherries.
Cherries are wonderfully delicious, I know. So there are some studies that say that the tart cherry juice helps with recovery. There's been mixed studies on that. It really just kind of depends on what study you look at. But there have been studies that show that it helps with recovery and the delayed onset muscle soreness, so the DOMS effect, and preventing or keeping the length of time, so shortening that length of time of recovery. But there are pros and cons to that. Eating multiple bowls of cherry or drinking high doses of tart cherry juice concentrate could add to the calorie effect, though. So there's pros and cons of that. It really just depends on how you look at it. At the end of the day, there are advantages to it, but again, you have to weigh the pros and cons in terms of the excess potential of the excess calories as well.
And the doctor, there's a section in there that you pose the question: is it okay to exercise with a cold?
Right. Because a lot of times people wonder, I have a cold, I'm not sure what to do. But generally, the advice and the research shows that if your symptoms are from the neck up, meaning if a sore throat, a runny nose, so forth, it's generally okay. And in fact, some studies suggest that it may actually help you feel better if you have a cold. Now, the other situation would be is if you have chest congestion or fever or body aches. In those cases, you clearly want to lay off exercise and recover till you feel better. But I think what's also interesting that we talk about in the book, that regular exercise can actually reduce your risk of colds. So people who exercise regularly tend to get fewer colds, and when they do get colds, the colds tend to be less severe and shorter. So regular exercise is actually one way to help decrease the chances of getting a cold.
Can you talk a little bit about eating and supplements? What are your thoughts on those? Obviously, eating has to be right, but are supplements a good thing, bad thing? What's your thought on that?
Well, by and large, supplements, I would say most supplements are unproven, and when you buy supplements, they're not guaranteed by the FDA to contain what they actually say, and there's no proof that they actually work. So by and large, I would say to steer clear of supplements. However, we do talk about the research behind a couple of supplements. One is something called creatine, and that has actually been shown to actually be effective, and it's relatively safe, and it's been shown to increase people's ability to increase their muscle strength, to be able to lift more weight and to get stronger. So that's something we're considering a supplement that works. And, of course, caffeine, which is something that most of us take in the form of coffee. There is a lot of evidence suggesting that caffeine can actually increase endurance and improve your workout. So if people feel they get a boost after having a cup of coffee before their workout, then there is science to support that.
Brad, I want to ask you something. If I were to look at exercise as a buffet, okay. and on the buffet, there's bicycling, there's running, there's swimming, there's basketball. I mean, how would because certain things attract me and others don't. For example, bicycling sort of does. That sounds like fun. I don't know that I want to do marathon running, but I'm okay with walking. So how do I know what to pick from my little imaginary buffet of exercise?
Good question.
That is a really good question. And so what I would say is, most importantly of all, doing something is a whole lot better than nothing. So picking something rather than nothing. So whatever that may be in that buffet, selecting those few things. But ideally, I suggest a comprehensive approach. So a combination of strength training, aerobic training, plyometric training, and of course, stretching as well. So being dynamic stretching before you begin that exercise, and then static stretching. So those are the stretches that you're holding after your strength training. So ultimately, a perfect week would be, you have your 7-day work a week. Take a day of rest. Obviously, if you're working hard throughout the week, you want to work in your day of rest. But I would say, 2 of those days, pick some sort of resistance training. So I let buffet find something that involves, strength training, so of the muscles. And then, working in high-intensity interval training. So something where you're doing a high burst, a strong exercise for 15 seconds to as long as a minute, and then cutting back and resting. So whether that's walking or jogging for a longer period of time, for 15 to 20 minutes. And then a conventional cardio day. So off that buffet, whether that be riding your bike at just a steady pace, with somebody, or some sort of an activity that you're maintaining for that winded conversational pace for 10 to 35 minutes. And then, plyometrics is some sort of jumping exercise as well. And in our plan, Fitter Faster, we put together an 8 to 10 exercise plyometric workout that's performed for 30 seconds, followed by the rest period, depending on where you are. Beginner, 30 seconds rest, intermediate, 20 seconds of rest, and then for the advanced exercises are as low as 10 seconds of recovery. And then, of course, it's so important just to do something that you love. So, off that buffet, whether that be playing tennis or as you mentioned, swimming, whatever it may be, something that you really enjoy. And then, of course, very importantly, working in that rest day as well, as I mentioned.
I don't want to be presuming something, so I have a question about something you said. You said winded conversation. I'm assuming that means if it's hard to talk without taking deep breaths, right? That's what you mean?
Exactly. So a winded conversational pace. So in other words, you're still able to carry on a conversation, but at a winded conversation. So it may not be quite as easy as the conversation that you and I are carrying on now, but still able to carry on that conversation, take a breath, carry on that conversation, take a breath.
Yeah, Larry's running out. He's having a hard time.
It's like when I come back from a break.
What do you say to the women who are pregnant, because they've got this workout regimen that they've been doing all these years, and then when they're pregnant?
Who's your question for?
Oh, I'm sorry, for the for Brad, because since you're a certified personal trainer, well, I guess for both of the doctor and Brad, but Brad, since you're a certified personal trainer, when the women are pregnant and they come back to you, how do you tell them that this will be good for them during their pregnancy, or this will not?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I can tell you this, and it really just kind of it really depends on which study you look at, but, I definitely very confidently can say that if for somebody that's been exercising prior to their pregnancy, go ahead and write it out. As long as you feel comfortable in terms of going through the exercises, whatever they may be, you can take it all the way until the day the baby is born. There's other studies that say that it's fine to jump in at any particular point, but I can safely say from the studies that I've read that, assuming that you've been doing something prior to pregnancy and you have been exercising, as long as you feel comfortable going through the movements, and there may be certain movements that you may have to avoid that may cause discomfort, but as long as you've been doing something and you feel comfortable with it, and again, listening to your body, it can absolutely be done. And I've seen it before. I've seen, ladies take it all the way up to right up till childbirth.
Wow.
That'd be great.
That is Brad Kolowich Jr. speaking. On the other line is Robert J. Davis. The two of them have written the book called Fitter, Faster, The Smart Way to Get in Shape in Just Minutes a Day. Robert is also a doctor, so let me go to the doctor. I have a question, doctor. Robin asked from a woman's point of view of being pregnant. I'm going to ask you from let's say an old man, like 62, came to you. and he said to you, doctor, I want to do the stuff in the book, but these people look younger than me. Am I going to be okay? This old guy, it might be me. I don't know. But would you give him different advice than you might give the 20-year-old guy who wants to get in shape?
Well, first of all, I think that we would need to discuss further what the definition of old is. But nevertheless, I think the answer would be absolutely. Exercise is important for people of all ages, and it's particularly important as we get older. And we talk about in the book a number of benefits that there are, including, we say, fending off feebleness. A lot of the problems we get as we get older having to do with muscles and joints and bones and just difficulty getting around, in many cases are just due to inactivity. And so there are multiple studies showing that if people move their bodies more, that they're going to have less feebleness or have a lower risk of it as they get older. And that's very important for quality of life, obviously. But the answer is yes, and you don't need to think about that the only way to exercise is to do extremely strenuous exercise that involves sprinting and high jumping and things like that. Is, again, the way that Brad described it, there are different ways, different kinds of exercises that we have. And so, for example, let's take high-intensity interval training. That's the idea Brad mentioned. When you go hard and you go easy, you go hard and you go easy, instead of going at a continuous rate for, say, 30 or 40 minutes. And we rely on a lot of that as a way of decreasing the amount of time it requires to exercise. You don't have to use sprinting. You can use walking. So let's say you walk. The way you would incorporate walking into high-intensity interval training is you walk fast for, say, 30 seconds, and then you walk at a more moderate pace. And then you walk fast, and then you walk at a more moderate pace. So that's an example of how somebody can incorporate walking, if that's your activity, into your daily routine. So the point is that you don't have to think of yourself as doing super impressive triathlon-like exercise or the kinds of things that your son did with his friends.
Yeah.
There are all kinds of other ways as you get older to be able to be active and move your body.
Just don't walk fast and slow in Sears. They will do a code 2. There's a code 2 in appliances. All right. What are you having for lunch today, Brad? What's your lunch? I want to kind of copycat you. What are you going to have?
I'm to say today, and I haven't quite thought that far yet, but I can tell you it's probably going to be a large bowl of greens. I'm big on, lots of vegetables, some mixed greens, and maybe some peppers on top with an olive oil-based dressing, I would say. Maybe a little bit of protein on there as well, a moderate amount of protein. And maybe some pecans as well. I like pecans and macadamia nuts and things like that. So I would probably say a large portion of vegetables, moderate amount of protein, and then a lot of healthy fats on there.
And if, in your particular case, is your protein from meat, or do you have a vegetable protein?
That's a great question as well. I do meats, moderate amount of meats for sure, and typically I'll go just a good solid, it doesn't have to be a lean meat, but I really enjoy chicken and and salmon. Enjoy salmon, good wild caught salmon. Grass-fed beef, I'm big on as well. So do some bacon as well. So definitely a fan of that too. So I would probably say, today it's a really good question. I'm going to, probably one of those varieties that I mentioned there.
And doctor, have you felt that in your research that you found some people taking it too extreme, and then you've had to tell them to, back off and not do that because it could be harmful to them? Too much exercise?
Well, like anything else, you can take a good thing too far. And so there are certainly examples of people that get extreme with their exercise. And beyond a certain point, too much exercise can actually have detrimental effects. Obviously, that's well beyond the point that most of us, normal people, exercise, because most of us are nowhere near that point. But yes, like anything else, people can actually wear their bodies down. And for example, people that run many marathons have higher risk of colds. And so there's an example there of the body actually rebelling to a certain extent if you do, high levels of very intensive exercise. So yes, that is an issue for some people, but I'd say it's a pretty small minority. For most of us, the problem is just getting off the couch.
And how about people that are wheelchair bound and they've lost the motorness in their lower extremities? How can you help them stay in shape?
Well, I think, again, that's a matter of people talking to either a trainer like Brad, who specializes in that, or a physician who can help. But certainly there are ways that everybody can move their body, for example, to move their upper bodies and to move other parts of their bodies. And I think that the key here is that there are studies that people that are as old as, in their 90s in nursing homes that have been, that researchers have found ways to help them move their bodies and actually get stronger. So whoever you are, regardless of your physical abilities, your age, whatever else, the bottom line is that you can find a way, if you talk to somebody who's knowledgeable like Brad, who can help you find ways to move your body.
Well, I want to say this. I think if you're listening and you want to get in better shape, then that's the first part. You have to want to, right? Mm-hmm. But I would say if the book has all this research in it, which it does, you'd be better off to just get the book than to take the advice off the internet, because some advice is good, some is not so good. For example, you touch on the subject of whether fasting is good before a workout, an aerobic workout, and you answer that question. The internet may not agree or disagree with you, but the point is, at least when you have the book, you've got two guys who have done research on this.
Yeah.
So let me give the book away. If you would like the book, call me right now. It's called Fitter, Faster. I did not go on Amazon to find it. I trust it's there. Who wants to give me the information, Brad or Dr. Davis?
I'll give it to you. It is on Amazon, and it's also in bookstores, but we can go to our website as well. It's Fitter, Faster Plan, fitterfasterplan.com, and you can find more about the book and also where you can purchase it.
Oh, fitterfasterplan.com. All right. So Brad, you've been doing it all your life. Dr. Davis, at what age did you start exercising on a regular basis?
I started gradually in college. I started running. I got interested in health, and I figured that I needed to do something, and then I started running, but very, very gradually. It took me over a period of years. I started running a little bit more each day, and then I'd say in middle age, I really got interested in resistance training. It took me that long to figure out I need to do that as well and add it. So it's really been a lifelong process for me as I've embraced more and more different types of exercise.
You know what we have around here, Brad? We have a lot of rivers, and a lot of people rent out canoes. So can I just ask you one question about that kind of activity? I don't know if I'm sure it's exercise, but is it a good one? If just amateur rowing a canoe?
Absolutely. Rowing is a wonderful thing. And I'd say, we even just in our studio here in Atlanta, we've got a Concept 2 rower. So rowing is just such a great thing, not only for your legs and your core, but also your back and your arms and your shoulders as well. So it's a tremendous workout. And there's so many different things that you can do out there on the river and the row. So it could be, some of the things, as we mentioned, just a conventional cardio workout where you take the boat out and you row it for 10 to 35 minutes, just maintaining that, that winded conversational pace for a great workout in itself.
Oh, man, yeah.
And another way, and one thing even better that I'd suggest on the rower would be to take the boat out there, warm up, for 2 to 5 minutes, and then do some interval training on the boat. So in other words, where you're paddling as fast as you can, for a given period of time, whether that be 15 seconds to as high as a minute, and then recovering, catching your breath for a specific period of time. And
sounds good.
And we outlet totally.
Thank you. We're out of time. I don't mean to be rude here, but I wanted to make sure we said goodbye. Dr. Robert Davis, Brad Kolowich, thank you again. Good luck, and I apologize for that echo. The book, Fitter, Faster.